All right, jumping right into it. Today we're going deep on a case out of India. Mohd. Ahmed Khan v. Shah Bano Begum. And we know you're ready to get into the details because you sent us the actual Supreme Court judgment.
It's a really interesting case. It goes way beyond just a divorce. You know, we're talking secular law in India, the criminal code, clashing with Muslim personal law, big implications for women's rights.
Okay, wow. So to set the stage, what was Shah Bano's situation?
So picture this. Shah Bano divorced in 1978 after 43 years of marriage.
43 years, that's a lifetime.
Yeah. And her husband, an advocate no less. Anyway, she's driven from her home, needs support, right? Turns to Section 125 of the Criminal Procedure Code. That law is meant to prevent, like, destitution, guarantee basic maintenance no matter your religion.
Okay, so at least that safety net exists. But after 43 years being driven out, what did your husband say?
Well, he argued his responsibility ended after the Iddat period.
The what?
Iddat. It's about 3 months. Under Muslim personal law, he's saying that's IT, that was his religious duty, no more financial ties to Shah Bano.
Hold on. So he's basically saying decades of marriage equals 3 months of support and you're done.
Pretty much, yeah. And to make it worse, get this. He was making good money, like 60,000 rupees a year. Offered her a measly 25 rupees per month.
That's appalling. So no wonder this case blew up. What happened at the Supreme Court? Did they side with his view of Muslim personal law?
Nope, they did not. Ruled in Shah Bano's favor.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets really interesting. They pointed out that Section 125, that's criminal law, not civil, not personal. Religion doesn't play into it when applying that law.
So like basic support is everyone's right, regardless of faith.
Exactly. And they went further. Said Section 125 actually overrules personal law if there's a conflict. Gave an example even. A Muslim man's right to multiple wives versus his first wife refusing to, cohabitate. The code wins there too. Shows they're serious about protecting individual rights, secularly.
Powerful stuff. But I'm sure the husband's lawyers had their own arguments, yeah.
Oh, for sure. They brought up Mahr, the dower in Islamic law.
Right, Mahr. I've heard of that, but how do they use it to, justify cutting off Shah Bano?
Claimed paying Mahr was the end of his obligations. It's given at marriage a mark of respect, supposed to provide for the wife. But the court.
Before you go on, could we maybe explain Mahr better for our listener? Some folks might not be familiar.
Good point. Think of it like this. Mahr is a safety net for the wife, given by the husband up front. Shows commitment, offers protection. The amount varies, depends on their social standing, how wealthy the husband is, all that.
So it's not about buying your way out of responsibilities later, like the husband was saying.
Exactly. And the court, they even dug into the Quran itself. Found verses supporting a divorced woman's right to be provided for, even after the Iddah period.
Wow, they went deep. Not just laws, but religious texts, too, to see if justice aligns.
Shows how committed they were to a just outcome. And we got to remember, the Criminal Procedure Code didn't just appear. There was legislative intent behind it.
What do you mean? What were the lawmakers aiming for back then?
They wanted minimal meddling in Muslim personal law, sure. Mm-hmm. But they also clearly wanted better conditions for divorced women, no matter their religion. This case shows the struggle, right, between those goals and balancing individual rights against religious freedom.
Wow, so much bigger than just one divorce. This is the court stepping into social change, how laws get interpreted when religion's involved, and women's rights in India.
You got it. And this debate is far from over, even decades later. And, this is where it gets even bigger, this case, way beyond Shah Bano herself.
Right. We've talked about her story, but the judgment, this could affect so many women.
Oh, yeah. Huge. This kicked off the debate again about a uniform civil code in India, like Article 44 of their constitution. It actually pushes for that kind of code, the goal being legal unity across the nation.
So this divorce case is tied to the Constitution. That's wild how legal stuff ripples out.
Totally. And the court straight up referenced Article 44, basically saying, hey, this is where India should be going. One legal system, so personal laws don't create unfairness.
But I bet not everyone loved that idea, right? A uniform civil code. That's got to be controversial with all the different religions and cultures in India.
You're right. It was huge controversy. People arguing about secularism, the court's role in changing society. Should they push for change when laws are lagging behind?
Yeah, some might say that's the lawmaker's job, not the court's. Did anyone bring that up?
Oh, yeah, definitely. dissenting opinions, and it's important to see their side too. Some folks argued that forcing secular laws onto personal matters, that could wipe out cultural and religious differences, worried about stepping on religious freedom and what it'd do to social harmony.
I get that. It's a tough balance. Individual rights, but also respecting India's traditions and diversity. How did the court address that?
They knew it was complicated, sensitive, but they stuck to the idea that fundamental rights are for every citizen. They said the point wasn't to erase differences, but to have that baseline of protection and equality under the law. Like, if personal law can overrule basic rights, certain groups are left vulnerable, women especially.
Makes sense. So it's like some values are bigger than your personal religion when it comes to law, like equality, making sure people aren't left destitute.
Exactly. And this isn't just an India thing, you know? All over the world, people are figuring out where individual rights meet religious freedom.
It's a big question, isn't it? Where's the line? How do we protect people, but also be sensitive to different cultures and faiths? Not easy to answer.
Nope. And the Shah Bano case shows us this, right? Legal progress means facing tough choices, values that sometimes clash, no simple solutions. And trying to build a fairer society, well, sometimes that means challenging deeply held beliefs, having uncomfortable conversations.
So this case went way beyond Shah Bano. It made India face itself, its ideas about equality, justice for everyone.
Yeah. It did. And those conversations, however hard they are, they matter. They make us check our own biases, hear other views, and hopefully we move towards a better world because of them.
It's like Shah Bano caused this ripple, right? Making people think harder about what it means to be secular, democratic in a world with so many different beliefs.
Good way to put it.
Yeah.
And it reminds us, legal stuff isn't just in some book. It affects lives, it sparks movements, it can change a whole country.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, what's the biggest thing that stands out to you from all this?
What gets me is this wasn't just about figuring out one law. It was about what justice is, where religious freedom ends, the role of government in treating people fairly. These questions are still relevant, not just in India, but everywhere.
It shows these issues are ongoing, complicated. We got to keep paying attention, thinking it through. And it all started with a divorce case. That's what's crazy.
Right. Mind-blowing. And it makes you think, doesn't it? Where do we draw those lines? Individual rights versus traditions. How do we have a society that's diverse, B-U-T, united in wanting justice? Big questions, the kind we need to keep wrestling with as citizens of the world, you know?
Yeah. It's almost inspiring, this case. It tells us that fighting for justice, for fairness, that never ends. And it means we have to keep facing these tough questions, finding answers that respect everyone. Wow, this has been really eye-opening, exploring this case with you. I feel like I get it now, you know, the whole balancing act between personal beliefs and what's fair for everyone in a country like India. It makes you think about justice everywhere, not just there.
Yeah, it's been great getting into all this with you. And honestly, we've just scratched the surface. So much more to this, so many different viewpoints to consider.
Totally. People will be talking about Mohd Ahmed Khan v. Shah Bano Begum for years, I bet. But for us, this is the end of our deep dive.
But before we wrap up completely, gotta leave you with something to think about, right? This whole judgment, it caused a huge uproar. Lawyers, regular folks, everyone was debating it. Some were cheering like, yes, secularism wins, women's rights. Others were furious, saying it was an attack on religion.
Oh, I like where this is going. Give us the question.
All right, so here it is. Was this judgment true secularism, or was it actually forcing something on people of faith? It's tough. No easy answers, but it's worth thinking about carefully.
Great question to end on. Reminds us that this whole idea of justice, equality, it's a journey, not a destination, always working towards it, you know? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.